high-performance motorcycle to use on a more or less regular basis, then naked street bikes make a lot of sense. I have a soft spot for them, and Kawasaki is now tempting me and all of us riders out here with this Z range of motorcycles. And we've got the top of the line Z1000 with us right now. This Kawasaki is a warrior, glistening green and shimmering silver as it towers over you. And then without batting an eyelid or spinning a wheel, it starts to play games with your mind. Its 221 kilograms of muscle seem to ask, are you man enough? This is Japanese design at its very best, which just entices you to come closer. What makes this motorcycle all the more appealing are the details. If you look at the headlamps, you'll find it's got cat-like slits. Then there's this brake fluid reservoir, which is see-through. And these rear view mirrors just look beautifully detailed. The rider's seat has the Z logo embossed on it. And this, it might look like a cowl, but this is actually a pillion seat. The instrument cluster is cooler still. The rev counter is snapped in two. And there are beautiful LEDs that light up the way. Everything on this motorcycle looks and feels like it's been crafted with the utmost attention and passion to detail. So when you trigger that 1043cc 4-cylinder motor and hit the road, the point is just hammered home. With every twitch of the throttle and with every rev. You know that this engine is anything but ordinary, and it is anything but dull. The way this motorcycle pulls pretty much from idle is just so impressive, and it just goes on pulling all the way to its red line, which is about 11,500 RPM. The fact that the Z1000 can go from 0 to 100 in less than 4 seconds is boring. When you compare it to the sensation of the motorcycle trying to yank your arms out of your shoulder sockets, it just outclasses the nakeds from Yamaha and Honda for sheer grunt. This thing is manic, but it isn't uncool. The refinement of this engine is also spectacular. Even when it's hammering on the red line, it doesn't feel wrong. The 6-speed gearbox is super slick. No complaints whatsoever. Actually, there is a small complaint. This motor isn't very good at being relaxed. What I mean is, all that franticness is thanks to shorter gearing. And that means when you're sitting in 6th gear and cruising, you invariably end up looking for a taller gear. And you do feel that Kawasaki have been a bit stingy. On the downside, even though this engine is shared with the Ninja 1000, the Z1000 does not get traction control. Considering how tightly wound this bike is, the electronic aids would have been welcome, as you will definitely want to play on this motorcycle. On the upside, the 310 monoblock front brakes are positively stonking. This is top quality sport bike stuff. Bite from the brakes is fantastic single finger operation, and of course you have ABS to keep things safe and tidy. So it goes and stops with ferocity. But how does it handle? In a short time, it is clear that this hard-nosed motor is matched by an equally focused chassis. The separate function front forks and the monoshock rear are set up for some hardcore riding. At 1435mm, the Z1000's wheelbase may not be long, but it is enough. This Kawasaki absolutely decimates long sweeping corners. The suspension is intense. The grip from the Dunlops is fierce, so you can really blast out of long sweeping corners.
The foot pegs are also a bit rear set, so you can lean onto the wide handlebar and it doesn't feel unnatural. But at times the leverage isn't quite enough.
The Z1000 is a bit surprising because it doesn't feel particularly happy or keen going through switchbacks. That's where you feel that the front end is a bit heavy. Now, one thing about the suspension setup, it is stiff, which on our roads can be a little difficult. After a long ride, you're gonna have aches and pains.
So, with its urgent performance and focused stance, the Z1000 isn't best suited for everyday duty on Indian roads, and it is better suited for experienced riders who will find the Z1000's performance cracking, especially at its 12.5 lakh rupee price tag.
The Z1000 is a gorgeous motorcycle and it is beautiful even from the saddle. The engine just makes it come alive, it's smooth and just so punchy. Sure, it is let down by its stiff ride quality and the fact that it could be a bit more engaging when riding hard. But the real problem for the Z1000 isn't any of its shortcomings. It's its younger sibling, the Z800.
Compared to its elder sibling, the Z800 is a bit tame and understated. But in its own right, it is as mean as any Kawasaki. The headlamp design is a bit Spider-Man and the rest of the design is 21st century Batman. It's there in that open pod-like instrument cluster, or the engine design, or the chassis that wraps around it. And the heavily creased tank adds muscle to it. And there's a heavy dose of Z. But the real Z magic is under the skin.
Now the Z800 also has an inline 4-cylinder motor, which means it is creamy smooth and has a beautifully purring exhaust note.
While the bike looks intimidating and the 111 bhp sounds intimidating, this motor is really quite friendly. From 2000 RPM to its 12,000 RPM redline, this motorcycle pulls clean and strong. And the slick 6-speed gearbox just multiplies the punch of this motor.
This motor ends up feeling very usable. In the city, it's easy to modulate, and the way it delivers power in a linear manner makes it a lot of fun on roads like these.
Creamy smooth and fast revving, this engine is an absolute delight, and you just feel like revving it to its 12,000 RPM redline. And you will feel like using the revs as power delivery isn't all that frantic at lower RPMs. And the throttle response isn't razor sharp like the Z1000. But as a result, it is easier to ride, and easier to ride hard as well. For most riders, its performance of 0 to 100, which again comes in under 4 seconds, and a top speed of well over 220 km an hour makes it a potent enough machine. So, how is the Z800 equipped to handle the twisties?
Now the Z800 has fairly regular components. I mean, the chassis is a tubular perimeter frame, the forks aren't the big piston variety, the brakes aren't monoblocks. But when you hit the road, you forget about all of that. You just get lost in the pleasure of riding this motorcycle.
And that really is surprising, because on paper the Z800 is heavier than the Z1000. It's also got a longer wheelbase, it's got a higher seat height. But when you hit the road, you feel that this is lighter and more agile, and definitely more enjoyable than the Z1000 right from the word go. Which means you can attack a set of corners with confidence right from the start. Although the suspension will feel a bit soft on stock settings for really hard rides. But the softer suspension setup also has its benefits.
Now on the practicality front, the Z8 has two big pluses. One is that the range of steering movement is wider than on the Z1000, and the other thing that really is a big plus for our roads is that the ride quality is supple.
So the Z800 is ready for everyday use. It is comfortable, it is maneuverable with a smooth and friendly motor. Yet, it is hugely thrilling to ride when it catches your fancy. So the Z800 is a superb all-rounder. But is it the better Kawasaki?
For some riders, what will matter is brute performance. And the Z1000 delivers on that front in a creamy smooth manner, and well, it comes wrapped up in a delicious looking package. But if you're looking for a more everyday use motorcycle, a more well-rounded motorcycle, then the Z800 certainly ticks a lot of the boxes. Yes, it is more simple in terms of design and it has a more cost-conscious approach, but it is a motorcycle that you can use more easily and can enjoy more 80% of the times. And the fact that it costs a good 4.5 lakh rupees cheaper than the Z1000 just makes it sweeter still.